Let me start by welcoming you all to this special briefing. It is International Women's Day 2025, and for me, it is critical. It's a critical checkpoint in our journey towards gender equality. I was on air this morning on NTA, and a critical question was asked: Are we making progress towards gender equality? I took a pause, and it dawned on me that the very fact that we are still asking this question is evident that our work is far from over, both in terms of communicating progress, but also in terms of accelerating action, which is the theme for the 2025 International Women's Day. Let us ask ourselves here, are we truly making progress? For me, it's a yes. In some areas, we're moving fast enough. But if we ask ourselves, are we moving fast enough? For me, it's a no. The gains we have made, are they substantial? That remains uncertain. The hard truth is that if we can continue at our current pace, we are decades away from achieving full gender equality in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Just to be clear about the reality, it's a global challenge, as the world is off track to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 5, SDG 5 on gender equality by 2030. But as a country, we must double down on our efforts. As you're aware, this year, we also celebrate 30 years of existence of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs as a vital institutional mechanism for the advancement of the Nigerian gender agenda. An institutional legacy of the Beijing Platform for Action, one of the most transformative global frameworks for the gender equality. Distinguished guests, members of the press, we cannot talk about progress without acknowledging those that have paved the way. As we mark this milestone, we must honor the fearless women who stood against oppression and injustice, from the pre-independence trailblazer like Chief Margaret Ebo, Chief Mrs. Fumilola Ransom Kuti, and Hajia Gambo Sawaba, to the thousands of women who laid down their lives in protests, such as the Aba Women's Riot of 1929 and the Eba Women's Revolt of 1947. We also remember the legacies of Her Excellency Dr. Mariam Abacha, who led the Nigerian delegation to the 1995 Beijing Conference, and Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida, whose Better Life program for rural women revolutionized grassroots empowerment. Their work reminds us that change is not given, it is demanded and earned through persistence and resilience. Today, I serve as the Nigerian Minister of Women Affairs. I do so with the knowledge that the ministry has come of age, standing at the forefront of policy formulation, advocacy, and institutional reforms for gender equality. Our modern headquarters may be a physical symbol of progress, but the real work lies in translating policies into action, ensuring that women, children, the vulnerable, and families have access to justice, economic empowerment, and equal opportunities. Distinguished guests, members of the press, the journey is far from over. There are 4 dimensions to the issues that continues to confront us that we are now working to address quickly. First, the legal and policy framework. While Nigeria has made significant progress in enacting gender-responsive laws, such as the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, the VAP Act of 2015, and the Child Rights Act of 2003, full implementation remains a challenge. As of today, 35 states have domesticated the VAP Act, while 34 states have adopted the Child Rights Act. A step in the right direction, but not yet enough. We need full compliance, effective enforcement, and accountability to ensure that rights enshrined in these laws are lived reality for every Nigerian woman and child. Second, economic empowerment. Women drive Nigeria's informal economy, owning 41% of micro, small, and medium enterprises. However, access to finance, markets, and digital literacy remains a barrier to scaling their businesses. More than 94% of women still lack access to formal credit despite proven ability to reinvest in their families and communities. We must close the gender financing gap, expand opportunities in trade, technology, and digital skills, and provide structured support for women entrepreneurs. Under the Nigerian for Women Project Scale Up, which we just commenced, we will be reaching a minimum of 4.5 million women nationwide to bridge the gap. The pilot phase of the Nigerian for Women project saw 450 women in the rural areas, in the grassroots, being empowered with so many cluster groups, and the investment made for this group of women was 12 million, but they saved $4.5 million. $12 million was being invested in the pilot phase in 6 states. So now we're about to commence the scale up, and about 4.5 million women will be beneficiaries. And the project is worth $500 million. It's done in collaboration with the federal government through the Ministry of Women Affairs, the state governments, and the World Bank. We also launched the Maosara initiative recently with the support of Wema Bank. As we speak today, the skill development program is ongoing, and we are targeting 500 women in the grassroots. We're looking at economic empowerment, sector by sector, because women are leading already in most of the sectors. So we'll see that we address those issues that are systematic barriers. Thirdly is the gender-based violence and social norms. Over 30% of Nigerian women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence. 1 in 4 girls have been sexually abused before the age of 18. We recently witnessed the tragic death of Emric Efang in Cross River State, and Muti at Sholola in Ogun State, and the heartbreaking case of the 24-year-old Salome Adaidu, killed in Nasarawa State by her boyfriend. We also saw the case of the mother of 6, whose husband allegedly poured petrol on her and set her ablaze in Anambra State, and the women whose fingers were being chopped off by her spouse in Dede Community, Federal Capital Territory, amongst others. These are stark reminders of the urgent need to sustain the declaration of the state of emergency on gender-based violence embarked upon in 2020 by the Nigerian Governors Forum, in the wake of a high number of such cases amidst the lockdown of COVID-19. These are isolated incidents, but part of a larger pattern of violence that must be decisively addressed are harmful traditional practices, such as the child marriages and the female genital mutilation. It still persists in our country today, with Nigeria ranking 3rd globally in child marriage prevalence, statistics that should alarm us all. The ministry remains unwavering in its commitment to strengthening the survivor-centered services, and we are pushing for the review of the Child Rights Act and the VAP Act, and we're creating safe spaces across the country. This is not just a women's issue, it's a national crisis that undermines our collective development. Fourth is the political representation and leadership. Women remain vastly underrepresented in decision-making spaces. In our 10th National Assembly, only 4 out of 109 senators and 17 out of 360 House of Representatives members are women. If you look at the last assembly, the 9th Assembly, we had 9 out of 109 senators. So there's a decline. This stark imbalance is not reflecting a progressive democracy. We must accelerate efforts towards political inclusion, ensuring that women have a seat at the table, not as a token, but as equal partners in governance and development. Distinguished guests and our friends in the media, Acceleration Action demands that we confront harsh realities facing women and girls in Nigeria today. For too long, our interventions have been largely dependent on donor funding, an approach that, while helpful, is either sustainable nor sufficient. True transformation requires national-owned investment. This is why we commend His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, who has, for the first time in the history of the ministry, significantly raised its budget. This landmark decision signals a new era of government commitment to institutionalizing women's empowerment and a core pillar of national development. With these increased resources, we will prioritize the resuscitation of one of the ministry's legacy projects, the National Electronic Dashboard, launched as part of the collaboration between the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and the European Union under the Spotlight Initiative, to provide comprehensive data to help tackle gender-based violence in the November of 2022. We will expand programs on women's economic empowerment, promote digital skills acquisition for girls and boys, scale up family cohesion programs, revitalize child protection and participation, and will unlock new opportunities for women through the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTAC, which has 2 protocols that addresses issues that concern women. We will also prioritize legislative advocacy. the economic empowerment of women, girls' education, and the fight against gender-based violence. Let me also quickly say that in a few days' time, I will lead a diverse delegation of Nigerians to the UN Commission on the Status for Women, the CSW, the 69th CSW, the largest global gathering on women's rights. Our goal is clear: to showcase Nigerians' progress, to forge stronger global partnerships, and to amplify our collective commitment to gender justice and women's economic advancement and empowerment. The task before us is immense, but I believe that with our collective will and effort, we can accelerate action for a more inclusive and equitable Nigeria. My charge to us is that let us take the opportunity of the International Women's Day as a time to strengthen our unity, determination, and unwavering commitment to tackling the legacy challenges that have held us from realizing the full potential of Nigerian women and children. Let me end by thanking His Excellency, our leader, our father, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for prioritizing women's issues like never before. Let me also specially thank Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, for the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the immense support and leadership we continue to enjoy in the sector. I also would like to extend my deepest appreciation to all the development partners, civil society organizations, and advocates, and every stakeholder in this space who continue to push the boundaries for gender equality and equity. To every Nigerian, woman and child, your time is now. Stand up, step forward, and claim your place in shaping Nigerians' future. I thank you all for listening. May God bless you all, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you. That the power is not served a la carte, in the words of Mr. President, that you have to be deserving of it. You have to also aspire. My late father says three things: that when you show you qualify, you indicate your interest. When you indicate your interest, you show that you kind of pray about it and actively work towards it. And I think that that is what we must always recognize, that it is not an entitlement. Because you're a woman, you should not be given anything freely. You should also compete. So we want to get women to a stage whereby they're able to compete fairly. When I met the First Lady, what she said was, I'll go and put money in women's hand. When women are economically empowered, they can contest, they can be able to engage the stakeholders, they can be able to serve their communities. How do you serve your community if you don't have the resources? Do you understand? So the political efforts generally are very costly. They kind of have cost implications, and sometimes women are at a disadvantage. So we have a strategy working with a lot of caucus, women that are already in politics, so that we can mentor women, so that they can begin to serve their communities. An entry point for us is from the party politics. When women are also represented in the party structures, not just in appointed or in elective positions, but in the party administration. When we have a director of finance in the party that is a woman, more women will go there. Those women that are in the political space will begin to even transit from being administrators in the party to even aspirants. So we want to see women visible in those spaces. That's an entry point. But we also have plans around advocacy, so that there's awareness in the need to have women, on the table. It's not to compete, but it's to have, like a shared perspective, to have a balanced approach to problem solving. Women and men think differently. So let's not see it as a competition. We're collaborating as partners so that we can be able to achieve the level of national development that we require as a country. And also would also come from the policy angle. The gender policy has a requirement. We have the Beijing Declaration of 35% affirmative action. So we'll continue to lobby and to engage the relevant stakeholders so that we achieve it. But times are gone where you bully people to give you things. The last time we took the gender bill to the National Assembly, we blocked the gate. There's 3 entrances to the National Assembly. When you block one, they're going to use the other 2. So this time around, we're going to do it differently. We'll do it in a very responsible manner. We'll mentor women so that when they get there, they also are able to serve and, open doors for other more women to come into the space. The second question was around the same thing, the political participation of women. Yes, we've seen a decline. And as we do the stock taking 30 years after Beijing, it's very important that we empower women. When you empower women, you elevate them. We do political education for them. So women don't even know how to register in a political party. They don't know what to do to be able to aspire and win. So when we mentor people that are already there, members of the National Assembly, each one mentor 1, each one mentor 10, will be able to get there in an accelerated manner. The third question was around abuse and human trafficking. So as the lead protection ministry for the country. And also the human face of government. It's very important that we recognize that achieving protection issues is multi-sectoral. It requires many players. So the ministry alone can't do it. We have to work with the law enforcement. We have to work with legal for prosecution. NAPTIP has the powers to prosecute human trafficking issues. Everybody has a role to play. So I think when we intensify advocacy, you'll be able to achieve. And it all boils down to economic empowerment. Human trafficking has push and pull factors. People japa for economic reasons, predominantly. That's why they become vulnerable and easily accessible to criminal minds. And that way they run into spaces of abuse. So we must come from the economic empowerment angle, from the grassroots. When you're economic empowered and you're aware that this kind of vulnerabilities do exist, then you can be able to protect yourself. So yes, we work closely with NAPTIP. I look forward to us strengthening our collaboration with NAPTIP and also sensitizing people in the enforcement space and the legal space. I remember there was a NAPTIP. Annually, we do trainings for judges so that they can recognize the VAP Act and the TP Act. That way, they're able to even accelerate when it comes to prosecution. And I think that is what we must continue to do. Because if you look at the SGBV issues, they're very slow when it comes to the administration of justice. So we must work with the lawyers that are dealing with these cases so that they understand the act very, closely. But even these legal instruments that we speak about are very outdated. So right now, there's an ongoing review effort to ensure that we have relevant piece of legal instruments that have captured our emerging issues and are protecting the Nigerian citizens. The last question was around our social challenges. And I think the most predominant one is the gender and the social norms. You don't believe that in this country, we still have strong norms, that discriminate and hinders us from achieving the equality or the equity that we desire as a country. There are still communities that throw away twins when you give birth to them. There are still communities that kill, twins or crippled people or albinos. And this female genital mutilation is still real, especially in some parts of the country. So we're intensifying to ensure that states have their own national action plan towards addressing these issues. These citizens are domiciled in states. And I'm happy that working alongside with partners, we're seeing that states come up with their own action plans and we support them. And that's one thing that you see come up in the next few months, a national action plan on GBV. It's a very sensitive space that has a lot of players. It's very important that we have a national action plan so that we can redirect energy, so that we can achieve our national priority in that area. Just like you rightly said, 30 years is 30 years. It means that we've come of age. So we don't have any excuse. We have to deliver for women, for children, for the vulnerable people. What will be different? As you may be aware, without resources, you can't do much. Especially when 30 years ago, you have not done much. We need certain kind of instruments to be able to offer protection, or to be able to, deliver on our mandate areas. So the first thing we're trying to do is to reposition the ministry and do some kind of institutional strengthening so that we have capacity when it comes to social workers, when it comes to gender, support officers and things like that. It does not exist. We don't have enough. Do you understand? So we're going to start with system strengthening. On arrival to this ministry, the first thing we did was we took a total scan of the environment to see what is in place, what do we have, which way do we go. Sometimes Ministry of Women Affairs is being confused for just like a happy, go jolly ministry whereby you're intervening for the indigent women. But no, it's a very, very technical ministry and that requires technical expertise to be able to deliver on all the areas of the 12 thematic areas of the Beijing and the 15 Maputo protocols. So yes, we're going to strengthen capacity, not just for the ministry, but also for private sector players because, in some countries, when you say women, children, you're dealing with a very small number. When you say 50% of the population is women and children. In Nigeria, dealing with 100 of millions of people. So the government can't do it alone. So we need to build capacity, both within the government structures and outside, so that, because the government can't be everywhere. We need to be able to reach women at every level. So we're going to be working multi-sectoral approach and with the private sector, private players to see that we kind of strengthen capacity. And that's why we need a lot of national agendas in every area of our operations. Secondly, we're going to work with concerted efforts. In this space, there's too much play. The gender lens is on two things. climate change and women. So a lot of resources go there. So you find a lot of partners accessing resources, and there's a lot of duplication of efforts. So it's very important that we work with concerted efforts. And that's why we'll have national agendas, so that every other person will key into our national priorities. So that will be done differently. The next one is resources. As you have seen, that there's a demonstration of political will and prioritization from Mr. President. There's an increase, over 1,000% of increase when it comes to allocation. People say it's not enough. I said it is unprecedented. It's never been done. So it's a starting point. Let's start from here. And secondary, and then lastly, we're thinking of other very creative initiatives around access to finance. You know, we're romancing an idea of having our own microfinance structure for women, so that women are able to access this finance. When you leave Abuja to any city in the outside of Abuja, you see women who are ready to work, to put food on the table, but there's systematic barriers. So when they have access to this finance and markets, they're able to do more. So we have plans for that. And we're also looking at a leadership, academy or leadership institute whereby women are being trained and mentored properly by industry experts on how they can be able to. So those are the different initiatives. And I also like to use this opportunity to thank Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Her renewed initiative has played a major role in empowering women and families and the vulnerable people across Nigeria. We would like to also support in the areas of the Every Home a Garden. It's a budget line in our budget so that we can support women's involvement in agriculture. Already, 70% of the smallholder farmers are women. And they kind of contribute over 80% of the outputs. So we'd like to encourage women so they can, because I know there were a little bit of encouragement. Women, by having agro-processing and agro-entrepreneur, schemes around, women can be able to even feed. Nigerian women were able to feed Africa, or even the world. So yes, those things we'll do differently. And then the second question was around protection. What is it that we'll do differently when it comes to protection? Firstly, we'll start by empowering our girls. During the last year's 16 days of activism, we launched a major boot camp for women in collaboration with the civil defense, teaching women self-defense. They must know how to protect themselves. So we'll start with the practical and basic things. We do have low-hanging fruits. You don't have to have a lot of money to collaborate with civil defense to teach girls how to protect themselves. So we'll start with the little things and then go for the bigger ones. And we're also reviewing our instruments so that they're relevant to today. As I speak to you, our 23-year-old Child Right Act is undergoing review. Our 18-year-old National Child Policy is undergoing review, and also the VAP Act. And all this, we pray, would give birth to proper protection frameworks and instruments for children, because we do not have a child development agency. That's something that I would like to put in place so that our children are well protected. And we're looking at also other incentives also, like the universal cash grants for children that will help the government take control of a child so that they're properly protected, because it exists in every country. This is global practice. When the government looks after children, that is a no-go area. So we're going to come very clearly and spell out things and be able to also sensitize on the legal instruments so that people know, our laws, simplify them in simple terms. For example, now, if you even term anybody as a house girl, I think the legal implications, but people don't know. So all these things, we're going to come out in simple terms so that the general citizens can understand all these legal instruments and the laws that protect them as individuals. The fourth question was around, the gender bill was the third question. What will you do differently so that this time around it doesn't get thrown out? Okay, it's been reviewed. It's undergoing review. There were some flash areas that we didn't agree collectively on. So it's undergoing review so that we can all agree and have better success, chances when we represent it. And we're going to consult extensively. The people voting for these gender bills to pass it, we know them, we know who they are. So we're engaging them, we'll consult with them, and we'll negotiate if we have to ensure that these gender bills, pass through, because when they pass through, it will be revolutionary for women. And also we're doing the right kind of sensitization for other stakeholders so that they can also support the advocacy for the gender bills to go through. The fourth question was on family values, how our girls are behaving. And in the past, our role as a ministry around family cohesion and advancement has been very silent. The mandate of the Ministry of Women Affairs is the protection of women and children, the advancement and development of women and children, family advancement and cohesion, and also protection of the vulnerable. Because of the name Ministry of Women Affairs, so you don't know where all these are areas of the Beijing, the thematic and the Maputo protocols. So we do not have any family in every country you go. Families are being told how to behave. You can't leave a child under the age of 14 at home. In this country, we have not set it out. And that is what we're working on. We have a team working on family cohesion, manuals and guidelines, which we'll consult. After the proper stakeholder consultation, we'll be launching those family advancement. And this will help us and work in collaboration with other agencies like the NOA, the Voice of Nigeria, to do campaigns that will help us to safeguard our culture and also our values as a people. I hope I've answered all your questions. Okay. It's an unfortunate incident that should not happen. Just like you rightly said, in the last assembly, we had 9 senators that are women. This assembly, we have 4. We don't want to be losing any member in the Senate or in the House. We want to increase the numbers. It's unfortunate. We're going to be brokering peace. We engage all the stakeholders to ensure that they temper justice with mercy. I was at the National Assembly yesterday at the Senate, where they marked the International Women's Day. And the last thing the Senate President said was that we're open to broker peace. So we're going to be the intermediary between the two parties to see that we broker peace, for peace to reign. And then we'll continue to also sensitize so that we learn to work better together as women and men. Thank you. Our intention is to ensure that we empower women so that we can contribute significantly to the $1 trillion goal of Mr. President. And we can do it. Women have the potential. Women are loyal. Women are diligent. Women repay their loans. So we're going to invest in the women so that they can be voices across sectors. We do because we don't like shame. So we're going to repay our loans. Men don't care. But women don't want to be called out, so we're likely more able to repay loans. So yes, we're going to empower the women, but we need your support. We need you to help us amplify on the work that we're doing. We need you to report even responsibly. We need to put our best selves forward, our most patriotic selves forward, because we're building a nation.